Let's get rolling on step number 13. We're going to go ahead and use our front axle set. Again, that's the one with the steering knuckles on it. Grab one of your drive shaft units and then two of your link units. Take a look at the directions, and it's going to show you the orientation that these need to go. And again, you're going to watch on the links, you're going to watch the angle of the ends. You can see this one tilts in, this one tilts out. You're also going to look at the orientation of the flange that is on the little ball end. So I've gone ahead and set these out so that they correspond with the picture. This is my links. You can see the two go in on the inside, on the top. They face in, and the ones on the outside face out, and then all of the lips on the flanges on the balls are to the outside. So we're going to set those down right where they belong. I guess we'll start with the drive shaft. To install the drive shaft, we're going to take a look again at the direction and the orientation. We're going to put the smooth part forward towards the front assembly. There is a hole inside of the universal here, and it is threaded on both ends, so it doesn't matter which end you use. But you're going to want to align that up with the hole that is in the front output shaft. Very simply just slide that on until the hole lines up. You can see that they're lining up. And then we're going to use this little shoulder set screw. And what I mean by a shoulder set screw, so you can see it only has threads on one portion and not on the other. The directions don't say to put a little thread lock on there, but I'm just going to put a small dab on it just to hold it in. And we're very simply going to just screw it in. You're going to feel it bottom out. You don't want to strip it out, so don't put it in too tight. Just until it's even and it touches, snug it up a little bit. You can see that it's in. Comes almost all the way out the other end, but not all the way. That's what it looks like. Anytime you do anything with the drivetrain, make sure that there is no binding. As this little puppy slides out on me, make sure that there's no binding. Next, let's put our links on. Measure up the proper size screws. You're going to need two of the M3 by 18 millimeter and two nuts. According to the directions, we're going to slide the links on to the bottom hole. If you take a look, there's two holes here, and we're going to put them onto the bottom hole. So let's get out a screw, make sure the orientation is proper on this. Slide that little puppy in there, put the screw through. I'm going to put the nut on the other end in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for this one. It's hard to do this for the camera. Slide that one through and put our nuts on. I'm going to use a little pair of pliers because it's kind of tight in there. So I'm going to hold the nut with a pair of pliers as I put it on. Guess it helps to have the right size wrench. Screw that little puppy in there. You don't want to, you want to tighten them down just till they're snug. You don't want to over tighten them. We're going to go ahead and put this other nut on off camera, but this is how it's going to look when you're done. Just like so. Okay, I'm going to put the other nut on, get our pieces and parts ready for step number 14, and we're going to make some more progress here. On to step 14, have all of our pieces and parts laid out. We have our 2 links that we built earlier, as well as 2 shocks that we built earlier. Do remember that I'm using the upgrade on these, and yours, if you're not using them, then yours will be plastic and look a little bit different. But what we're going to look at here is the orientation of these parts as we put them on. Go ahead and grab the M3 by 30 millimeter along with a thick or a tall nut. If you take a look, there's 2 different sizes of nuts. One is thinner than the other. It's actually a lower profile. And if you look at the directions, it'll show you where to use a thicker one and where to use a thinner one. So we're following the directions. So go ahead and grab your screw, and we're going to put the 2 center links on right here. We're going to take a look at the orientation of these. The longer portion is going to go towards the front axle, and as we put the first one on this side, on the right, it's going to face the axle. So the bend is going to go towards the outside of the axle, and as we do the other side, it's going to be the exact opposite. And they're going to slide right into these 2 units that are on the top. So we're going to take the bolt, go ahead and put them in. I'm going to slide one in, and then slide the second one in. Just like so. Once we get the bolt slid through, we're going to go ahead and put on the thick nut. And again, it's going to be a little difficult to do for the cameras while you're watching, but we'll get it done here. You can use a little pair of needle nose to hold it in place and tighten it down. Helps to use the right wrenches. This really is a fun kit to build, I have to say. I'm enjoying it. Hope you guys are. Okay, we're going to go ahead and snug that up. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want the spacers or the balls to float around inside, so just tighten it until it's snug. So that's what those 2 pieces are going to look like. Let's get these other ones out of the way here so you can see. That's what we just put on. Now we're going to put the shocks on, and they're going to go into the top holes on these brackets here. Very simple. Going to put one on, and then we'll do the other one off camera. And take the screws, which I had laid out here, and it looks like I knocked them around somewhere. Oh well, I got one. Going to go ahead and slide this in. It's a little bit tight on the top one. Sorry about my hands being in the way, but trying to, there we go, trying to get that little puppy slid in there, and it was tight. So we'll get that lined up. We'll stick a screw through it. Why is it not lining up? Just a little bit off center. There we go. Get that put on. Get a screw through it. Come on. doesn't want to line up properly. Move it around a little bit. See if it'll go on now. There we go. See the screw starting to pop through there. We're going to go ahead and put a nut on there and repeat the process on the other side. I'll show you what it looks like as soon as I get it done. Here's what it all looks like once we get step number 14 done. We have our shocks onto the same area as these particular links. We have our drive shaft, which keeps falling out, sliding out. We have our two center links mounted here, and then the same with the shock and the link on the other side. So that's what it's looking like so far. Is it right? I sure hope so. I think these probably go up and connect somewhere up on the chassis, but it's looking right. So hopefully it is. We're going to set out all of our parts for step number 15 and get rolling on that. Let's move on to step number 15. In step number 15, there's pretty much, it looks to me like there's three distinct separate things that we're going to do. First one is to install and assemble the servo platform. The second one is to install the steering link bars on the front. I'm not really sure what the technical name for those are. And the third one is going to be to install the servo itself. So we're going to address these. The building of the servo holder is pretty straightforward. If you take a look, we're going to hold this so the axial symbol goes back, and we're going to put on part number 80072-3, which are the servo bracket mounts. And there's one screw that holds these in. If you look on the bottom, and you look here, there's one screw that holds those in. It's pretty straightforward. As you're choosing your screws in this step, you're going to want to make sure there's two different lengths. The longer 4 screws are going to go for the steering, and the shorter of the two go for the servos. So we'll go ahead and put this together. Simply 2 screws. Don't over tighten them. This one has a small adjustment back and forth depending on the size of servo that you use. As long as we're doing this, let's talk about servos. From what I understand, you're going to want to choose a servo that's within your price range, and if you have a choice between speed and torque, you're always going to want on a crawler to go with the servo that has more torque. I would always suggest a digital servo, and I'm also going to suggest that you try to go with something that has some metal gears in it. Just a lot tougher. Okay, we've got this piece built. This is what it looks like. This is the forward facing portion where the servo actually screws in. And I'm going to measure my servo right now before I put this in, just to make sure that I have the size right here, and we'll mount the servo later. What we're looking at is the back and forth alignment of the holes. All 4 holes line up really well, so I think we're going to leave it right there.